Hello, I'm Suzanne. This is Training Tuesday, where every Tuesday morning we spend less than 10 minutes together getting some high level leadership skills or training, mindset work so that we can live our best, most amazing lives and birth into the world our extraordinary vision. Thank you for being here. Speaking of that, whether you're here live or on hashtag replay, let me know where you're watching from. I love to see where everybody checks in from. It varies Tuesday to Tuesday, but I am glad that you're here, however you're catching the content today. And if you're paying attention to any of the things that I've been putting out, I'm dealing with fear all month. Let's face it, we all have fear, right? We have fear of something. There are lots of ways that fear shows up in our lives. And if we don't take actual time to think through fear, it will be the one thing that derails us from everything that we want to do. So I decided to spend a whole month on fear. So every Training Tuesday, we're dealing with that. My newsletter, speaking of, if you're not on the newsletter list, drop your email below or message me and let's make that happen. Everything I'm doing this month is all about fear because it's Halloween time, right? And so it makes it the perfect time to be talking about fear and all the spooky things that go on. So let's take a moment and think about how life could be more interesting, life could be more rewarding if we could just be a little fearless, right? Do you think that's true? Drop me a comment. Yes, no, you do find that true? Excuse me. If we could just be a little more fearless, do you think that life would get more interesting for you, more rewarding for you? The thing is, when we stay in our comfort zone, as much as it feels good and it feels safe and we know all the things, it's a good boundary for us, it actually strangles vision. It strangles your leadership and it strangles your life. Just little bit, a few little inklings of a little more courage will actually help your self-esteem and your leadership rise to better heights. You don't have to wish that you were bolder. Hear me clear. You don't have to wish that. You can be bolder. There's a fearless person lurking inside of you somewhere. And so today I've jotted down on my little sticky note in front of me, 8 ways that we could build your bravery muscles, build my bravery muscles, so that together we can talk about being a little more fearless with the big things that we're trying to do. So let's go through these a little bit quickly. So the first one, and you've heard this a lot, I'm sure, is to avoid worrying what others will think of you. Easier said than done, Suzanne. Yeah, I get it. But unless you can find a way to put yourself into the history books, it won't be too long until there's no one left that remembers you. So I love the quote that talks about, I forget who said it, but that interesting is the way to be, right? Not everyone is going to like what you do. Not everyone is going to follow you. Not everyone is going to buy from you. Not everyone is going to show up at a volunteer thing that you put together. Not everyone is going to come to your Christmas open house. Not everyone is coming towards you. It hurts. I get it. But if you're living your life trying to be in that space all the time, it is a surefire way to keep you stuck. And you know I'm all about getting out of the stuck, right? So instead, let's find a way to put your own self, your own brand, your own story into what is out there in the world. And then the right people will come towards you no matter what you're doing, from your life to your business to your volunteer world. The second way to become just a little bit more bolder, and I love this, is to literally ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen here? What's the worst thing that could happen? You may have seen my stat last week that there's this big study that came out on fear, and it talked about that 87 or so percent, 85% of what we actually worry about never comes to pass. Never comes to pass. So if you can take just a moment and you're feeling all of those big fear feelings and ask yourself, all right, self, what is the worst thing that can happen right here, right now? Unless you're in danger of falling to your death or losing a limb, getting eaten by the bear is my favorite thing to say, there probably isn't too much to worry about in the depth of which you are stuck with that fear. Hear me clear. When you're feeling fearful, figure out what is the worst possible outcome. Start there so that you know what you can live with. Can you live with that worst possible outcome? Is there a way to move just a little bit past that worst possible outcome? And then you'll find, wow, I didn't need to spend so much emotional energy in that place, and possibilities will open up for you in that moment. Trust me, trust me, trust me. You know I'm all about the imagination. The other thing we need to know is how to deal with the smaller stressors. This is a strange little tidbit, but hear me. When you deal with the smaller stressors, when you deal with your little fears, that becomes a key to managing big fears. Okay? Here's the way that works. When you deal with those smaller little inconsistencies or moments of anxiety or fear, when you deal with them, your mind then becomes accustomed to new patterns of thought and action. So there's a little thing you're trying to do, and you're like, okay, self, I'm going to do this little thing. And then your brain tells the rest of you, wow, you did that. That wasn't so hard at all. And then your brain is out there going, wow, okay, maybe the next thing won't be so hard again. Plus, the skill and the confidence that you gain by overcoming those smaller fears actually give you the ability to dominate the more larger ones. So it's important to kind of remember that and be a part of that and understand that those little bitty things that you take care of, those stressors, those small fears, they help you then deal with the really big, hairy, scary things that go on in your life and the inconsistencies thereof, because your brain's like, I've done this before, I can do this again. The other way to be a little bit more courageous, hi, Jen, I'm glad that you're here. The other way to be a little more courageous is to relax already. I know that like when you're anxious and you're fearful, relaxing seems counterintuitive, but honestly, the best way to overcome a fear reaction is to relax. You can train yourself to automatically relax when you first feel fear. Here's how. You start with your toes and you say, toes, relax. And if you're clenching your feet, you make them relax. And then you move it up into your ankles. And then you move it up into your lower legs and your calves and then to your knees. And you think peaceful thoughts and you're breathing deeply and you're just saying relax and you're feeling that wave of relaxation move from your feet first, finally up to here. Okay? Remember, we're practicing with our smaller upsets first. So when you have a small thing first, this is a good time to be practicing this relaxation that starts from your feet up to your head. I learned this technique actually from Naval Special Warfare. This is one of the ways that they teach their people to relax in tense situations, starting with their feet. Use your brain. It'll help you. The other thing that I find curious to help you be a little more brave is to play the odds. Now, what does this mean? Well, when we're playing the odds, remember what I talked about. How many of your fears actually come true? That stat, 85% don't. Okay, so only about 15% of what you are fearing actually comes to pass. So that means if you can deal again with that question I said, what is the worst possible thing that can happen here? And if you can deal with the worst possible outcome, then there's still only a 15% chance that that is going to happen. You have little to worry about. So if you're a data freak, give your brain something to work on. 15%, this might happen 15%. This thing might be 15% happening, right? That's a whole lot of space in between that worst possible outcome. And one of the best modes of advice that I got actually from my fabulous therapist was this, which is kind of remember to yourself, remember this, okay? That the fear only happens between your ears. I'm not talking about Disney. I'm not talking about putting on your Disney ears, but fear only happens between your ears. Almost all fears are unique. You might be afraid of snakes, but your friend isn't. You might be afraid of heights, but your sister finds them exhilarating. You might be afraid of water, but your best friend has a pool. In most instances, you are the source of your fear. And there are ways to, again, do mindset work and relaxation work from your toes to your head that allow you to be calm in that space and realize, wow, this person's a snake handler. They're doing a really good job. Maybe I can learn a little bit more about snake safety so that I'm not quite so fearful of them, unless, you're around snakes all the time. Then it is, okay, what can I do to be not put myself in a risk-averse situation? Right? So if you're deathly afraid of snakes, maybe there's certain places like a jungle that you don't want to go visit. Right? Give your brain something to do and focus on some possibilities. Speaking of positive possibilities, the positivity work that you do is crucial here. So when you allow yourself to just live into the space that says, I am going to choose to look at this differently, meaning that rather than thinking about every little thing that might go wrong, consider what might go right when you're brave. So allow yourself to feel excited about a possibility. Right? Imagine how much more exciting your life would be if you gave yourself the chance to have something amazing happen each day. Or what if you said, every day I'm going to work on my fear of speaking. And so every day, maybe for the first 30 days, you just speak to yourself in the mirror and you record it and you see how it goes. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's a positive possibility to say something amazing is going to happen on this. And so I'm going to focus on what the amazing might be rather than the fear that is freaking me out in this moment. Okay. And then the last little tidbit I would give you to help your bravery muscles expand would be to create challenges for yourself. Now, if you're a person like me, I'm very much about challenges, and they give me kind of the impetus to move forward. So when I am in that kind of stuck space, I like to go, okay, Suzanne, think of fear as the beginning of a game here. It's the beginning of a game. So then what I do is I try to get myself to take an action that makes me afraid when I think about doing it. So for example, you may not know that I don't have a love of water, but Brian, Prince Charming, loves the water. So a few years ago, I decided, all right, I'm going to learn how to surf. Now, so again, big leap, not just like get in the water. I'm going to go surf, right? So I'm like, this is going to be fearful. It's going to be scary. It's going to be hard, but I've got good balance and I get to do it with somebody I love. All right. So I want you to be smart. I want you to challenge yourself to do things that actually improve your life. What I found is I love surfing, and it's hard and it's scary sometimes, but I love it. So you can live a fearless life. Trust me, you can experience more rewarding adventures than you do now because most of your fear is manufactured inside your head. So today, maybe make a list of some big fears you have. Then maybe think through that question, what's the worst possible thing that can happen here? And then start working back to the 85% that you know is not going to happen at all. So start today by doing something you've always wanted to do, but you didn't quite have enough courage, okay? Just relax, just do it. Show yourself that, you know what? There might not be something that's so big and so scary here in this moment. Now, if any of this content is landing with you and you happen to be a girl boss, lady leader, woman making changes in the world, and you haven't found your way to Verve yet, what are you waiting for? I had an in-person Verve event. It was smashing. I loved it. Incredible energy in the room. Holy moly, the women that were there, and they're making connections and they're changing the world and they're starting new things. And I love that. I love to be a collaborator and a creative unleasher in the world. And so I'm doing it again, but virtually so that you can be there. So if you know a lady boss, you are a lady boss, grab your girl bestie, head to bit.ly/virtual Verve, grab your seat. It is November the 6th, so time is of the essence to get your seat secured. Great support from like Jade Bloom, which is a wellness company, from the International Association of Women, which is a women networking and empowerment company, and so many more sponsors. So I definitely want you in the room. Okay, I'm Suzanne. I'm glad that you were here for Training Tuesday. I'm wishing you a fearless week, and I will see you next Tuesday. Have a great week.